Everyone for stopping by and welcome to today's webinar, Understanding Trust, Probate, and 1031 Exchanges as you become the real estate planner with MAPS Coach Dan Ihara. I'll make this short and sweet. Please note this meeting is being recorded and I will share the link in the chat momentarily to the MAPS YouTube channel where the recording will be available within 24 hours. Currently, everyone is on mute. However, Dan does value group participation. So if you have any questions, please type them into the chat box. Following the meeting, if you have any questions about today's call or other coaching programs, please feel free to email us at fasttrack, FASTTRACK @kw.com. That's all for me, Dan. Floor is yours.
Thanks so much, Graham. Hey, everybody. Aloha. As you can see, I'm from Hawaii. I've been in real estate for 17 years. I started doing 1031 exchanges in my second year in real estate. And it really came, actually, I take that back. It was my very first listing. I did a partial 1031 exchange, which is quite challenging and difficult in itself. But what I found was the wealthy older adult, they had investment properties and they just didn't know what to do with them, right? Because the notion of owning real estate was something that we build wealth and we pass it on to our kids. And that's the common theme in most people's minds, right? I'm going to do this for my kids. But they don't realize that there's the way to do that prior to them dying, right? They realize that after they die, you get a step up in cost basis. Therefore, that's when I should give it to them. But what if there's a better solution? What if there's a way to bless your family today while you're alive? You see, 17 years ago when I started, I learned about the 1031 exchange, and it's such a valuable tool that it is for investors. And what I realized is that nobody's talking about it. So here's a question for you, and tell me in your chat, is anybody doing 1031 exchange seminars in your market, right? Is anybody doing that? Right? And if there are, I'd be interested to learn what they're doing, because we started doing it 2 years after becoming licensed realtors, and we had a lady come in and we called it building wealth through a 1031 exchange, wealth building with 1031 exchange. And a lady showed up and she said, hey, I'm curious, I'd like to learn more. So we sat down, we met with her. What I found was, after talking to her, I said, tell me more about your family and tell me more about the properties you own. She ended up owning 5 different properties in 3 different states, right? And some of that she purchased on her own, and some of that was just given to her from her parents, right? And that's what we're going to see a lot of. Right now, we're going to see the largest transfer of wealth in America in these next 10 or 20 years, because the baby boomers' parents are passing on, right? And they may have investment properties. And what happens is it now gets to the next generation, which is not trained to handle that, has no real interest in it. They became the accidental investor, I call, right? It's an investor that has an asset, but they've really never been educated on best practices on it. How can you use this asset to reach your family goals, right? And so we sat down and she started telling me about her property. She had 2 in Texas, she had 1 in Arizona, she had 1 on Oahu and 1 on the Big Island, okay? All these different markets. The only one I could help sell, it was the largest one, fortunately, was $1.8 million here on our market. But then they had smaller properties in Texas, Arizona, and on the Big Island. And then I asked her, so tell me about your kids. And she says, well, I have 3. And I asked her, so just curious, do they all get along? She goes, no. I mean, very quickly, she goes, no. I say, oh, okay, tell me about them, right? So, well, my son, he lives with us, he helps us out. And she gave me the sentiment that she kind of liked him, right? Then there's a daughter that, she had 2 more daughters, one that she liked, one that she never really talks too much, right? What I found out is we said to her, hey, why don't we get together and let's find a way we can create a legacy, right? She liked that idea. So we had them, all 3 kids and her, show up in my office. We're sitting on our table. And I said, tell me about yourself. What do you do? Where do you work? Do you have any kids? Do you own a property? I found that the youngest one was adopted. Hence, there was some resentment between the ones that weren't adopted. I didn't know this dynamic, right? but it just organically showed up because I was curious. And that's my tip for you, is you want to be curious for those that you're talking to find out what their family and their lives are like and their dreams are like regarding real estate. Right? So the question I have is, so tell me about them. What do they do? Right? Do they have any kids? Where do they live? And she says, well, the youngest one is just about to go to Oregon because the cost of living in Hawaii was too high. Cost of living in Oregon is cheaper, but yet she didn't have enough money to buy it. So she's going to rent something. That was her initial thought, at least. The middle one, she had a small condo, but it was too small. She wanted a bigger condo, right? And the last one, he just wanted money. Okay, clean and simple. He was very transparent. Hey, I don't want real estate. Mom's going to give me the house. Therefore, I don't need anything else. I've lived here all my life and I want to stay here and give everything else to my sisters and then give me the cash. So what do? We took the 5 properties. We said to her, when we add all this up, we could buy a property in Oregon for your daughter. We could buy cash, by the way, property in Oregon for your daughter. We can help your second daughter upgrade her condo, which means we sold a condo when we bought one, but she needed more money to do that, right? And the last one, he wanted cash. So we put his proceeds into what we call a DST, a Delaware Statutory Trust. The DST, the Delaware Statutory Trust, we're not going to dive deep into today, but if you sign up on the class, you will understand how to use this tool. It's kind of like a real estate investment trust, except it's acknowledged by the IRS for a 1031 exchange. It's not commonly marketed because they're not allowed to. They have to be an accredited investor, and it's only sold through an accredited financial planner. So you and I can't sell that. You're going to have to find a accredited financial planner that is accredited by the, I believe it's by the IRS, acknowledged by the IRS to sell these DSTs. Now the DST is a safety net for a 1031 exchange, right? So the biggest problem in the 1031 exchange world today is finding a replacement property, right? You all agree that the market's pretty tight most places. So most people who have an investment property, they think of a 1031 exchange. They go, I don't know if I want to do that because I'm not going to find what I want. Right? That's the mindset, at least, until you change that mindset. But also the DST is a safety net. In the event you cannot find a replacement, you can roll it into the DST. It'll generate over 4 to 5% of net return now. No hassles, no management fees, all net money goes straight into your account. Last year during COVID, or the year before during COVID, we sold a property and we rolled it into a DST because I didn't want to have to worry about a tenant going bad on their rent. I was tired of getting calls about having to put more money into the washer and dryer or the refrigerator or the disposal. So this is net money. When I did that, every month now, I get 4.39% of net return into my bank account. Now, in our market, I don't know about your market, but in our market, that's really hard to get, not real common. In some of your markets, you're seeing 5, 6, even 8 to 10% cap rates, but in return, in our market is challenging. If you look along the coast of our country, it will be challenging. So that's just a solution. So in that case, when I sat down with her, we helped her process what could be done, right? What could be done. Let's take a look at how big this opportunity really is. And it's, if you think about all the investment properties that are, oh, I'm sorry, let me back up. If you look at all the units, housing units available in America, 31% are rent or occupied. That's a pretty large stat, right? That's a pretty large number. Of those, you're looking at 44 million rental housings units available, right? And if 4.68% of these are selling every year, what does that mean? Well, there's going to be 2 million listings from investors. And they're seeking a realtor that can help them plan this. They're seeking a realtor that understands and has mastered the 1031 exchange, understands what are my options in this, and how do you minimize taxes and help my family and remove the burden of owning the real estate. See, because a wealthy older adult, they don't need the money, right? They have more money than they can spend, oftentimes. And they're at a point in life where it's now the investment property that they bought, and they helped them pay for their college education for their kids and did all these vacations. Well, all that's done now. Now it's a burden. Right? Cognitively, when you get to 70s, 80s, and 90s, you don't want to have to worry about the complications in taxes and all these things that are really not significant to you any longer, right? And that's why this model that we've built, I mean, we get calls every day from people who are considering wanting to do this or wanting information on 1031 exchanges. So it's an absolutely huge market that most people really haven't dove into well, right? And this class will help you with that. Now, how do you secure listings? The 3 tips in securing listings with the wealthy. Number 1 is understand the opportunity. Number 2 is define the goal, right? And number 3 is create a plan. You see, we had another lady came up to us and she said, you know, I don't know what to do. I got this property and, you know, I'm getting older, and I heard of my nieces and nephews after my sister passed away. Now they're fighting over real estate. Anybody heard of that? Anybody heard of a family who fought over real estate after mom and dad died? It happens all the time. Why does that happen? Because there's no plan. See, the plan that they have is viable in one sense and not viable in another. Meaning, if it's in a trust, it keeps it safe from probate. Absolutely. That definitely does help. But it doesn't keep you safe from your family, right? And so what does keep it safe? Well, it keeps it safe when it's very clear upon if I own 3 properties and I had 3 kids, who's going to get which property, right? How do they know? So I met a guy at a event, KW event, and he said, Dan, I got this down. You know, I got 3 kids and I got 3 properties. I'm good. I figured this out. He'll, you know, that sounds like a good plan. It sounds like you did figure it out. I got one question for you. Who gets the first pick? And he looked at me in glazed eyes. He goes, oh no, I didn't think about that, right? Because somebody's going to have to define who's going to get the first pick. And then how do the other kids feel when you're dead and you're gone? How are they going to feel when Johnny got the best one? How come that was mom's favorite? You see what I'm saying? Because there wasn't a conversation, there wasn't a plan, there wasn't a feeling of equity, right? This model creates a feeling of equity, and it creates a feeling of empowerment. It binds the family together, right? And it helps mom and dad feel rested that when they're gone, their kids aren't going to fight. Because that's the biggest problem. The biggest stress an older adult has with wealth is, I don't want my kids fighting, right? I don't want my kids fighting. And that's why we have this model. So understand the opportunity, define the goal, and create a plan, right? So what does that look like? Understand the opportunity. Just ask. Ask everybody you know, do you have any other properties? So when you go to a listing appointment, is that a common thing you ask? So tell me, do you have any other properties that you own, right? And most realtors don't. They're just so focused on that one thing that we lose the opportunity of maybe there's other things out there. And or the other question is, who do you know that owns investment properties? Oh, my sister has got 4 and my brother's got 3. Just think of the opportunity that sits in front of you today. Think about this. Go back into the last 5 conversations you've had with clients. And I want you to think, if you ask that question, what do you think would happen? What do you think the result will be? Right? Think about that, because what you're going to find is there's more opportunity here than we understand, right? There's much more. In particular, because anytime mom and anybody that you're working with, if their parents pass on, the first question is, where do they live? What's going on with their property? Right? What's going to happen? Right? What is your plan? And most of the time when somebody passes on, they're not quick to sell it, right? They're in mourning, right? When somebody passes away, sometimes people, I just got a call yesterday. In fact, I signed a listing yesterday. The guy had the property for 11 years. 11 years he had the property. And he rented it for part of the time. And that was one that mom gave him, right? Just, he didn't have a solution. what we do is we go to the market and we share to the market, here's some solutions for those who have investment. Again, if this is a third of the population now, a third of the listings out there could be an opportunity for us, and it's right in front of our eyes, right? You know, where do you find these investors? Your own database. Just think of that. If you just ask everybody in your database if they own something else, there's a good chance that 30% will, right? A large percentage will. The next question will be, what's the goal? Okay, so first is understanding the opportunity. We get these out at open houses. Direct mail has worked really well for us now, because we send a letter out to the non-owner occupant homes over a certain price point, and we're getting listings from them. We're getting appointments, because these are folks that are seeking a solution, but you have to have the complete solution to really appeal to them. And we're going to talk more about what that looks like later. Door knocking, right? Finding out if they have any other properties. Administrators, executors, and personal representatives. These are people that are responsible for assets, right? So if it's not in a trust and it goes through probate, you're going to have a personal representative or administrator, right? Anytime somebody passes away and dies and it's not in a trust, in many states, it'll go through probate. I think there's a handful of states that do not require probate, but in most cases, you're going to go through probate. What that means is you're going to have to find these guys, because these guys are the ones that make the decisions. And there's ways to do that. It's not that hard to find these folks and give them a call and find out if they need help liquidating, right? Now, these folks, the ones that just passed on, likely they're going to get a step up in cost basis, and they're not really needing a 1031 exchange, right? The 1031 exchange is designed to defer capital gains taxes, right? But if you don't have significant capital gains taxes, just sell it outright. I looked at our database in the last, up until now, everything that we sold and it's in escrow. About half of our business is in an investor market, half of our business. Of that, probably about half of that, or a little bit more than half of that, did 1031 exchanges with us. So my point is, not everybody's going to do a 1031 exchange, but everybody, a lot of folks have other properties that they do not live in, right? And that's the real opportunity that I feel that many are missing, is the properties that they own that they don't live in. Okay. The other is trustees, right? Successor trustees. If it's in a trust, you'll have the next of kin or heirs be the trustees. Allied partners. Think about this. When somebody passes away, who do they call? Well, they're going to call their CPA, right? They're going to call their financial planner, and likely they're going to call the attorney. And then what are they going to say? What do I do with the property, right? And what if you had relationships, and what if you had educated your allied resources, CPAs, financial planners, and trust attorneys of your solution? As we have, these are the folks that send you referrals, right? These are the folks that are going to constantly feed your business because you have a solution that the other realtors don't. Now, guys, you want to get in front of this, because there's a huge wave that's coming at us. And I've gone all over the country looking, and I can't find people that have mastered it at this level. And it's not that hard, right, to do. Sign up for the class. You're going to learn a lot about how this works. And then we're going to build a community that will really dive deep into technical advanced training for the 1031 exchange. Seminars, you know, as I said earlier, I started in May of 2005. By the end of 2005, I signed an agreement with a newspaper that committed me to $24,000 investment. And I wrote an article in the experts page. How bold is that? Experts page in real estate after being in license for 6 months, because I studied hard for 6 months, and I did well in my first 6 months. And they came to our seminars. I educated the population. And then what I found was financial planners would come, CPAs would come, because they're all curious, because who specializes in it? Nobody really does, right? The ones that specialize in it, they're more in the commercial side of the world, right? The commercial side of the house. We do the residential side, and there's a ton of them out there, from the condos to the short-term rentals to just properties that the owner's not living there, right? It's a non-owner occupant property. And it's everywhere you look, you can ask somebody about that. And there's a good chance that odds are pretty close to a third will have one. So tip number 2 is define the goal. Okay, now that you've found somebody that says, I have an investment property. So your first question is, hey, what's the goal in owning it? Why do you have it, right? And I'm going to tell you, I ask this question every day pretty much. And I've been doing this for 17 years. When I ask the question, what's the goal in owning it? You know what they all tell me? 9 out of 10 times they tell me, this is for my kids. This is for my kids. I'm building wealth for my kids, right? 1 out of 10 says, I'm doing this because either it's a second home for my enjoyment, or I want some income to travel, right? But 9 out of 10 times it's for their kids, right? Because again, most of this time, these folks that we're working with, they have more money than they can spend. They don't need the money, right? So they're doing it for somebody else, which is their kids, right? So we break this down into 2 decisions. They're either going to make an emotional decision or they're going to make a financial decision. See, the emotional decision says, I'm going to either buy it for my children or it's for a second home, right? But that's what they think. And our job is to reframe and refine that goal. So tell me, when you say you're buying it for your kids, what does that look like to you? Well, you know, when I die, they'll get it, right? And it'll have value. I said, okay, so it sounds like you want to bless your kids. And they go, yes, it is. Well, I'm just curious. If you could bless your kids today versus wait until you die, would you want to do that? And all of them say yes. First, they sit and they think like, how do I do that? Because no one's come to them with that solution. They go, that's not possible. Well, no, not thinking it's possible. We do this all the time. We've done it 180 times. Yeah, we know how to execute on this. The way you do this is you take your property that you want to sell, that's a burden, that you don't want to have on your books anymore, that you want to kind of gift to the kids. So what you do is you sell it and you buy something. So we had a client that sold a house here and they had only one son. It's easy when you have one, right? There's no worry about fighting. Right? He's going to get it all. So, but he moved to Seattle. So from Honolulu, moved to Seattle, went to school there, UW, and then found a girl. Once they find a girl in the house, game over. They're not coming home, right? So he was keeping the house in Hawaii for the son to come home. Well, once they realize that they've anchored somewhere else, they're not going to come home. The asset here has no value. See, the kid had a good job and he had good income and he had good credit. You know what he didn't have? He didn't have down payment. So what we did is we sold a property that was worth $800,000 here. We bought 2 in Seattle. Half of it was an $800,000 house. Half of it, they owned 50% interest with the son. The son took a mortgage out at $400,000. He could easily cover that. He just didn't have the $400,000 of down payment. You see how we can change the lives of those around us? Mom now blessed the son while she's alive by giving him proceeds through a 1031 exchange. By the way, 0 capital gains tax now. 0 capital gains. Mom's not living in the house. Mom doesn't live there. She owns 50% of it. The son owned 50%. He's on the note and the mortgage on that, and he's learning to be responsible in paying that. Now, this is a beautiful brand new house he built for mom. Mom also took the other $400,000 to buy a condo for them. They said, you know what? When the baby comes, we're going to spend more time with the baby. So we just want a condo close to where their son is. So they bought 2. Guess what happened? The son built the house with a suite downstairs for mom and dad. They actually never lived in the other one. That's all cash flow for them. That money pays for all of their trips back and forth to spend time with their grandson. And now they can live life while they're alive, enjoying the fact that their grandson has a home that the father owns that will be 100% owned by the son when mom and dad are gone, tax-free, right? So you get a step up in cost basis when you're gone, when you die. So while we blessed the son with $400,000, it still belonged 50% ownership to mom, right? When mom dies though, he gets all 400,000 tax-free. There's no capital gains tax. So we've helped them create a legacy with their property while they're alive. And they get to enjoy it while they're alive. And they get the hugs and kisses while they're alive, as opposed to going to the funeral and the kid's not talking any longer because they don't think something's fair. Okay, so that's the emotional side. We have other clients that on the emotional side, they have so much money, they buy large $3 million properties on the beach, and they say, no, I'm just going to sell it and buy another one in Tampa or somewhere, you know, crazy numbers, right? And so that emotion is where people have enough money, they can do that, and they do that enjoyably, right? So that's the emotional decision. But that's honestly probably 10%, because when I ask them, so tell me why you own the property, say, oh, it's for my kids. How many kids do you have? Oh, I have 3. How many properties do you have? Well, I have 1. I go, how's that going to work? You can't divide real estate, can you? Oh, but they'll split it when I'm gone. Oh, how's that going to work? You know what's going to happen when somebody dies and leaves their kids as the heirs? Well, what's going to happen is you put them in, it's like putting them in business with the largest asset they'll ever own. You're putting in business that because they got to make a decision together, right? When do I sell it? What if one says, no, I don't want to. I think it's a good investment. We should keep it. One says, no, I want the money. One says, oh, use my realtor. The other one says, use my realtor. One says, fix it up. One says, not fix it up. You see all the complications that are coming on? And that's what causes strife in family division. We currently have 3 clients that we cannot help at the moment. Not yet. And all 3 clients, they're in their 60s and 70s. See, mom is in a care home. And now their family are not talking to each other. They actually, the only way they talk to each other is through attorneys. Because one wants to sell it, one doesn't. The one that doesn't want to sell it is suing the other one, saying, if you sell it, I'm going to sue you. Here's the worst part about this. Mom's got dementia. She's in a care home. She doesn't know what's going on. And all of her inheritance is being spent to pay attorneys to deal with a problem that she didn't figure out. Bottom line is mom created the problem because she didn't have a plan. And all this money now is going to pay attorneys to deal with a problem that can be solved. Right? And it's unfortunate to have to go into these conversations and not be able to help them. Right? And that's really frustrating on my side. Now, when they say it's emotional, it's for the children. They say, oh yeah, when I die, it'll get to the kids, they'll split it up, they'll make money on it. So yeah, that's true, but I have a question. Why would you wait until you're gone? My other question is, if you could bless your kids today while you're alive and not cost you anything, would you? 100% of them say yes. All of them say it. No one said no to me yet. All of them said yes. Because it makes sense. If you think about it, it makes all the sense. They just don't know how to do it. And that's what we're going to train you on, is how to get through that situation. Now there's the emotional side, which it's very unlikely. When they say it's for my kids, they think it's emotional, but it's really financial. So I say to them, okay, so you want to keep it for your kids for what? Well, so they'd have money when I'm gone. Okay, but what if they could have money today instead of money tomorrow? What if? Or what if they could predetermine what the asset would be when you're gone? What we're seeing now is families are having to make decisions on dividing an asset. Right? See, whenever mom and dad passes away and there's more than one child, you got to divide that asset, right? Because you can't divide real estate. You have to sell real estate. You can't divide it. There's no way to divide it. Let's say there's 2 and you say, well, I want Johnny to have 50% and Jane to have 50%. And that's good and everything seems well. But at some point it's not going to be, because they're going to have kids. What happens when they die, right? I have a situation now with a good friend of mine. His family bought a lot in Waikiki. I had an apartment building on in Waikiki now, like prime real estate, right? Many, many, many moons ago. 4 generations back now. Now my friend's family there were 9 of his parents around. Now I'm 58, so his parents are in the 80s, 70s and 80s, but all of them are dead except one. There's 32 decision makers today for that one asset. 32. Why? Because all the ones that died, they give to their kids. Now all these guys are in charge. Now you got 32 of them. What happens if the roof leaks and you got to spend $50,000 to fix that? Who's going to pay for that? You see the problem? It's going to create a mess because some of them aren't going to have the money to do it. And the guys with money, they're going to fix it, and they're likely going to go after everybody else to pay their share. That's where the problem comes. Right? And you can eliminate this by not even going down that path. Divide it while you can divide it. Right? Itemize it so you know that when you're gone, everything's clear. Everybody knows what they're going to get. And the last home that they live in can be sold, and then all this, the cash can be floated across the top of everything to make it equal. See, the reason why we have family strife and division is the perception of inequality, the perception of fairness. And I got to tell you, that started when we were kids, not even walking. Right? For those of you who have brothers and sisters, I'm the youngest of 6, right? Right? I mean, we have stories, right? We all have our own stories about when we were a childhood, about our siblings, that they stole something from us or they hit us or something, right? The funny thing is, those stories never really leave them. And in their 70s and 80s, they tell me these stories. And it drives with them about not being fair. So the goal is to divide it in such that there's no family dispute. The other goal is cash flow. They say, you know what? Here's my property. I love my property. I got a great tenant. I say to them, tell me about your investment property. And they go, oh no, it's great. I got a great tenant. It's doing really, really well. I said, okay, tell me about that. Send me your income and expenses, and I'll help you do what we call an asset performance test. It's something I just coined. It's called asset performance. Sounds pretty technical. It's really a cap rate analysis and a cash on cash analysis. Okay, it's very simple to do. We teach you in our class. And it gets people's interest. Like, yeah, I want that. It's free. You're going to educate me? Sure. 9 out of 10 times, it's underperforming. See, because they think they have a good investment, but there's emotion attached to it because, you know, my tenant, I haven't raised my rent in 20 years, but she's a nice gal, or he's a nice guy. He mows the lawn. You know, he does this and that for me. But it's when you pencil it, though, we show them that here's how your asset's performing. And here's what we could do for you at the same price. You don't pay a penny more, but if I could make you $2,000 more a month, would you want that? The answer is always yes. Right. The other side of that is appreciation. So you got cash flow, then you have appreciation. There are some that are selling in lower appreciation markets because they had them for cash flow, and now they're moving them to higher appreciation markets, and vice versa. I actually had a client that did a 1031 exchange, sold one property and bought 10 in Tennessee. One property in Hawaii, bought 10 in Tennessee. And I asked her, why did you do that? I said, cash flow. See, her situation was her husband had cancer and they didn't have insurance. And she needed a lot of money. I think it was like 10 grand a month to pay for his care. And I said to her, this property in Hawaii is not going to do it for you. You need to go to a higher cash flow property. And she said, you know, I don't care about appreciation, but I got to pay the bills. So we said, you know what, why don't we sell this? Let's go buy something with a higher cash flow that'll get you to your goal. We're able to change that person's life in a way that most wouldn't be able to do. See, understanding a 1031 exchange, while it's mathematical, while it's financial, while you think it's all about money, it's really not. Right? The way we operate is really about how do you change somebody's life in a meaningful way such that you'll make an impact generationally, more than just at the moment, but it'll impact others down the road, right? And the simple question I ask everyone is, if you could, would you? If you could, would you? So if somebody says, you know, oh, I want to buy this place. I have an investment property, but I'd like to get a place for my daughter. If I could help you do that, would you? The answer is yes. Right? you get 2 transactions on that, right? A sell and a buy, at least 2. We've had clients that have done dozens of transactions with us. We'll bundle, we sell 5 to buy 1. We'll sell 3 to buy 2. And it can be anywhere in the United States. That's the beauty. Our goal is to educate everyone in Keller Williams so that we'll now have a community of experts of 1031 exchange people through our community called the Real Estate Planner. And that's going to come out after the group coaching in August. But our goal is to find like-minded people that can help folks transition life, help them transition the largest asset and the hardest asset to transition from generation to generation. You see, because there's stocks and bonds, that's easy to do. Cash, easy to do. Real estate, that's going to take some work, right? It's going to take knowledge and experience on how to do that, okay? Then you create a plan. So the emotional decision, it starts with, hey, if I could help your kids today, what would it look like? Right? What would it look like? Well, they want this or they that. When I asked that question to that lady, she said, well, my one daughter is moving to Oregon. If I could help her, I'd love to help her. Right? The other one says, one has this condo that's too small. She wants a big one. If I could help her, I'd like to help her. Right? And my question to her is, if we could help them, would you want to move forward? The answer is yes. That's how we got all that business. Right? That's on the emotional side. On the financial side, we really ask, hey, what's your end goal look like? And they really don't have an idea. Believe it or not, they don't. They think, oh, I'm just going to build wealth and just dump it on my kids when I die. That's their plan, right? Well, really, what's your goal? Well, I want to bless my kids. Well, tell me about your kids. Well, Johnny lives here, Jane lives there, John lives over there, and they have ex-kids. And so where are the kids going to school? What's going to happen? Planning down the road for them is what we do. Because it's not, again, this is not a transactional process. This is a wealth building generational process, right? And when you have conversations like this with your client, they see you differently than any other realtor. You're no longer a realtor, you're a planner, right? And that's what they really need. And by the way, that's what they're really going to tell their friends. Yesterday, I got a call from a guy that we met through one of our webinars. He didn't do any business with us yet, but he referred somebody else that's got 2 multi-million-dollar properties that will be selling and doing 1031 exchanges for, right? Because every $1 million transactions, that's $2 million of transactions, right? You got to sell one, you got to buy one, right? So what does that end goal look like? That question is, well, are you looking for appreciation or cash flow, right? And what are you going to do with it when you're done, right? Why do you do this? Right? We have to understand what's in their head. And then we do an asset performance test to validate its current position financially. See, when people have investment properties, they see them through the lens of a homeowner, right? They see them through the lens of a homeowner. So therefore, they don't see it as a real investment, many of them, at least the older ones. The younger ones, they get it, right? But I call them the accidental investors. The accidental investor is somebody that mom and dad died and I now have their property. I didn't intend to be an investor. I just became one because I have a property now, right? So I call that the accidental investor. And who's training these guys? Nobody's training them. Who's educating them on how to best use that asset? Not many are. We've been doing this for a number of years, and that's why it's built 50% of our business now, is investors. Because as we go through the shift, ladies and gentlemen, as we go through the recession, these are folks that have tons of equity. They're highly motivated because they have a 1031 exchange that has a time frame on it, and they're going to be buying in cash, right? So you got a cash buyer now. So now you got the strongest buyer you can get, right? You got somebody that's selling a property that it's all free money, so they don't really care if it's 10 grand less or not. So you're going to be able to price it well, right? To sell it, and that you can get timing constraints managed by you in the negotiation, because you might have to do a home sale contingency on the 1031 exchange, depending on if it's difficult to find a replacement. Okay, so the asset performance test is huge. Now, once you get past understanding the options and the direction they're going, then you still got to execute, right? What we do is we put a calendar down, or we actually walk in with a calendar, like 3 months of calendar. We walk in with a calendar. We say, okay, if we start here, we start shopping here, we're going to get your home ready for sale here. You know, we should be able to, by the time we go into escrow on our relinquished property, we'll be ready to find and put offers on your replacement property. So we're not going to have the time constraints that are so concerning for most, because we're so far ahead of the game. And that's why, again, we haven't failed before. Right? The other thing about this is helping them be the solution. Remember, it's an investment property, so there's no pride of ownership because they don't live there, right? It could have had a tenant, it could have been vacant, could have been mom and dad's home, right? If it's mom and dad's home, you're going to have to clear it out, right? And oftentimes there's going to be some repairs, right? Cleaning, staging, photos, marketing. When we walk in and provide solutions like that, the complete solution, there's no reason for them to look anywhere else, right? And so my challenge to you is you need to find solutions for this, and you need to become a master at these items, because when you are, and you can speak of confidence, people will listen to you. They're going to want to sign up for you. They won't even interview anybody else, because there's nobody that looks like you in your market, right? And then simultaneously shopping for the replacement properties, right? We're constantly shopping for replacement properties. We'll shop for the replacement properties before we even go to the market, right? Why? Because I want to know the target market. Once you get somebody motivated on finding what they want to buy, they're more motivated to sell what you have to sell, right? So these things can work in balance for you, and they're their greatest tool of success is the timing. Most people are concerned about the 45 days and the 180 days. Use that to your advantage, right? And you base it off of their goals, and you emphasize the time constraints. Keep in mind, we must have a replacement by this time period, which means when we go into escrow, we're going to make sure that it's in a property that the one that you like, and that we're going to likely move forward on. And the things that are small, we're probably going to have to accept some of that, right? Because our time frame is, if we walk away from this property, you know, then we're risking failure on the 1031 exchange. Right? And then oftentimes we're just coordinating out of state or out of your market. Because what we're finding is, if they're helping their kids out, their kids typically don't live where mom and dad live anymore, right? Or they don't live where the investment property is. Okay. So what's the opportunity? Well, it really starts with dividing inheritance. If you think of, there's over 2 million folks that are going to pass away this year over the age of 65. As sad as that might be, they're going to have a challenge. And their challenge is, their kids are going to have a challenge of, what do I do with all the properties, right? So they're going to want to divide it, right? Split it up, let everybody buy or sell anything they want, or use the money that they wish. The other we're finding is the older adult that has investment properties that it's just a burden right now. And that we see a lot of, because a lot of our clients, they used to manage it themselves, or they're just at an age where they just want to simplify life. Now, they don't want to sell it because they don't want to pay capital gains taxes. Just last night, I had a conversation with a guy that said the same thing. I got these properties, but I don't want to pay capital gains taxes. I said, well, if we could sell, especially land, by the way, if you have anybody with land, that is the best 1031 exchange property. Why? Because land only has expenses and has no income, unless it's a cattle ranch, has no income. So it's a negative asset. Like, negative and assets are not comparable words, right? Your assets should be positive. You should generate money. So if you sold the vacant lot and I gave you $2,000 a month, what would that do for your life? Would you like that? The answer is yes. You get a listing and you get a buy. Right? The good thing about this also is, now your buyer, the wealthy older adult that has these investment properties, they have no balance, most of them. Now you got a cash buyer, right? And they're highly motivated. Okay, so this opportunity is right in front of all of us. We want to start asking the right questions to uncover the opportunity and then create plans for how to solve that. Is it a good time to do a 1031 exchange? It is if you want to increase or upgrade your portfolio. We have many clients with a dozen to 30 properties anywhere in the country, right? If they want to relocate that asset and the equity, right? Like our story earlier, selling Hawaii, buying in Seattle and Oregon, Florida, Texas, California, everywhere. Exchanging to a lower cost asset. We have clients that have associations that the association dues got expensive. So we're selling those and we're buying something with lower association dues, right? In exchange for a higher cash flow market, from a lower cash flow to a higher cash flow, like they had that lady had to have cash for her medical situation. In exchange for poor condition, we have a lot of that. So a lot of ours are a lot of deferred maintenance because it was mom and dad's house, she died, and we left it vacant for 5 years. It's so common that we see that. And it's a non-owner occupied property, right? We're therefore an investment property. Land, not generating an income, and then creating a legacy with your family while you're alive, right? Lastly is possibly increasing depreciation schedule. And that's a whole topic that we'll talk deep into later, not in today's class, but you can, your depreciation is 27 and a half years, but it's on the improvement, right? So if you buy something from a high land value, low improvement, and you sell that and you buy something with a low land value, high improvement value, you can actually increase your depreciation schedule, okay? And there's a lot of ways we can use depreciation to your benefit. So our group coaching class is going to look like this. It's 4 classes. We will start with understanding the market, the wealthy older adult, how to position yourself, the conversations you want to have, the questions you want to have to reveal those opportunities. Second week, we're going to talk about senior relocation specialists, right? For those who find that their home doesn't fit them anymore, how do you help somebody with that? And how do you become the go-to person in your community that services this market, which is multi-million people a year they're going to be moving. Learning 1031 exchanges, DSTs, and legacy planning, that's a huge portion, somewhat of that we touched today. And then gaining knowledge on wills, trusts, and probate, and how you can actually get a lot of listings through this market. We're starting to get more probate business now and pre-probate business now. We're starting to build a model around that, again, everything we're doing, guys, ladies and gentlemen, this is purely to get listings. You know, Gary keeps talking about leads, listings, leverage, right? Leads, listings, leverage. So we're going after the leads for the listings. That's purely it. And with the 1031 exchange, you get a buy on top of that, right? So you get a little bit of leverage with that as well. When you master this and you can deliver this in a seminar, then that's your leverage, because your leverage is this knowledge going out to all those trusted advisors in your community and getting them to come back to you for that referral. Coming soon, we're going to have a new community, a new segment called Keller Williams Real Estate Planner. In this community, which will be limited, you're going to be able to receive leads and referrals because you're going to have a designation that you're a real estate planner. We're looking for market center specialists. So we're going to have one specialist for every 100 agents per market center. And we're selecting people that can be ambassadors to some level. Also looking for regional ambassadors, right? We'll need regional ambassadors, 32 of them around the country. So if you guys know of anybody, feel free to put their names in the hat. We'll see if we can move that forward for you. And really what you're going to learn is the systems, models, and tools that we've found successful. Our 17 years of doing the same thing, we got really good at it. And we know how to help you get good at it in your market, right? The fun thing about this will be the group. So we're going to have a Facebook group, and it'll be a private group for the community only. And you can bring in any situation you have there, and we're going to help process, you know, words and phrases and how to help you with that. Along with that, there's going to be monthly training. Now, this monthly training is really certification. So this is this is very serious training, meaning there's going to be tests and homework. Okay, so if you're the person that doesn't like this, don't sign up. If you want to build your business and you want to have actionable items that you can take and get listings, you're going to want to sign up, because there are things that we're going to have you do that you know you'll need to do. We're just going to ask you to make sure that you get them done, and then have tests to validate that you have the knowledge to be able to communicate this to your market. Okay? And all of that's just $199 a month for the community. Right? I ran a little late today, my apologies. Let me end with the real estate planner. Real estate planners are licensed real estate agent who's certified and has the knowledge, training, and experience to compassionately guide a real estate owner in ways to create generational wealth, minimize taxes, and facilitate the goals of the family. See, the real estate planner is not a transactional person. The real estate planner is looking down the road. We're planners, right? Because all of the wealthy, think about this, all of the wealthy have a CPA, right? They have an attorney and they have a financial planner. Well, here's the question, guys. Who plans their real estate? Nobody does. Nobody does. Until we come to the market and we provide these solutions to the market. You can become the real estate planner. I am the real estate planner in my market, and people come to me for that, right? Because I'm more than a transactional person, right? I'm going to help them get to their goals in an impactful way that'll impact generations to come. I'm done at this point. This is, the QR code. If you want to sign up, click on the little dinosaur in the bottom left. Don't click on me. And here's my contact information if you need it. Any questions that we can answer? I didn't follow the chat very well.
Pretty good, Dan. I think mostly administrative questions.
Any questions I can help anybody with?
I was just curious if this is the same 4 weeks that we signed up for perhaps last week.
Yes. So if you sign up for group coaching, right, then you're good. You're going to get those 4 classes. Correct.
Okay.
Yeah. Fast track is group coaching. We just did a rebrand. So just to, tomato.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah. So thanks for signing up, Brenda. And for those of you who want to sign up, click on the registration there. Get signed up. We are starting on Wednesday, and it'll be 4 weeks straight, every Wednesday. Right.
What time are the classes at?
2 p.m. Central.
And I know it says that everything's going to be recorded as well. So I'm still working full-time as a leasing consultant for the Irvine company and working on my transition to full-time real estate. So I'm taking as many classes as I can on my days off, like today, or on my lunches. If I'm unable to attend live and just watch the recordings, will I be able to email you with any questions or follow up?
Yes.
Yeah, for Dan. Yeah, you'll be able to email. I'm sure Dan will be very engaging coach for and then also if you have any client portal is where you access the recordings. You have questions like those. That's for us at fasttrack@kw.com.
Thank you, because I do see a huge opportunity in this area. My grandparents are actually going through this process right now. They own a couple of properties in a retirement community. They're in a 2-level, so they're looking at selling that piece and moving into their single-level home in the same community. They're 80-something now, and just the stairs are a little bit too much. So my grandpa said, get boned up on 1031 exchanges because I'm going to need you. So
Good.
This would be perfect.
It is. Yeah, this will help you get to your goal, and you help your grandparents as well.
I'll put the QR code's not working. There's the link one more time. 4 classes, Holly, and then you'll have access to the recordings for 60 days following the conclusion of the 4th and final session.
Yes.
Yep. Cool.
All right. Well, sorry for the long class here today, but as I was preparing for this, I thought, wow, there's just so much that we can do here with this tool that everyone can benefit from and really change lives. I mean, if you think about it, the joy that I get the most of is impacting lives that will be generational, right? It's more than just one transaction. It's more than one generation. It's multi-generations that we're helping. And you got to tell you, that just feels so good inside. Right? And people really appreciate the knowledge that you have. Guys always ask me, are you a realtor? I say, yes, I'm a realtor. Yes, but I'm much more than that, right? Or much more than a realtor, right?
I do have a question.
Sure.
Okay, so the 4 weeks is for $199, and what is the monthly thing? Is that an extension or?
That's a segment. We're calling it a community that'll launch in August. So not to
okay.
worry at the moment. This class is going to help you understand if this is the world you want to live in. And if you want to live in this world and really build a business and a niche in this world, then you're going to want to be part of the community. But it may not be for everybody. So just, there's a lot of work involved.
Okay, thank you.
Sure.
Cool. Dan, do you have an email you want to, for any follow-up questions so we can honor everybody's time? Do you have an email, any follow-up questions from today's chat?
You can use mine, I guess, for now. Dan@iharateam.com.
Dana has a hand up.
Oh,
Cool.
Dana?
Oh, yeah, just real quickly. Thank you. I love this. I had my Series 7 and 63, so I do know about DSTs. And I already focus my entire business on seniors. So I think this is a perfect, and you and I met at one of the elite masterminds in Sarah Mountain.
Oh, nice.
And I'm coming to Hawaii. But anyway, my question is about the community. Like, I'm all over this. I'm super excited. And I'd love to be the person in my market center. And that begins in August. And I'd love to get more information on how often, how many months, and how much work, because I don't have a team, but I'm super busy and I want to do it, but I don't know if I can do it.
So the community will be 1 hour of training a month and 1 hour of masterminds a month.
That's doable.
Yeah.
Perfect. And what about the homework?
Probably about at least 1 to 2 hours a month.
That's doable. Thank you.
Sure.
Sweet.
Cool. You do Dana's question and we'll head out. Does that work?
Oh, I think Nicole had one more.
One more. Okay, so the example that you gave about the couple that wanted to purchase in Seattle to help their son and what have you, did they fully sell their property in Hawaii, or
Yes.
did they pull a HELOC loan to utilize the equity to purchase
They sold it.
31? They sold it entirely. Is it possible to do a HELOC loan to help with an investment property?
Yeah. So there's a whole, in our advanced class, we use the HELOC as a major tool prior to doing the 1031 exchange, prior to doing a DST. But it's much more complicated than we have time for today.
Thank you. I just was curious if that is even a possibility. I'll sit
Yes.
down with my lender and ask more questions about that. But like, my parents purchased in 2010 and their home in Fallbrook now has doubled in value. So they have an intense amount of equity.
Yep.
I can't afford a home in Orange County right now on anything that I could possibly make. So I was looking for ways to help them, help me, and
Yes,
continue forward.
absolutely. We can help with that. All right, guys. Thanks so much. Sign up now, and I'll look forward to seeing you on Wednesday for those who do.
Thank you so much.
Hey,
This was
take care, everybody. Aloha.